Once it starts publishing all these red lines, it becomes green.
No, yonder there is another square line. That you have to pinch up like this. So the whole screen is.
Is the speaker on?
No. See this?
Yeah, thing looks like it's on.
Dekha? Full screen. Okay, now we are done. And what I do.
Yeah, if you can come and put it out,
See, we are already aligned. Okay?
Chala, can you turn this TV on?
That one is not on? It should be on. Yeah. Fell off?
This one had fallen off. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Where did it fall off from?
Yeah, it's coming on now.
Coming on?
Yeah. It was, yeah.
This one is. Okay. Yes.
Sorry?
Yeah, something is not working because, oh, yeah.
It's not working.
Available devices, Samsung. It's not showing. Oh, there.
I'm not sure I understand.
Doesn't it show the source?
It's connecting, it said.
Yeah.
It's there. Good.
Is there? Now you need to go
No, I know.
full screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Big rigmarole.
I know.
Should that be green in color?
It's okay.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Shankarananda.
Namah Shri Shankarananda.
Guru Padambu Janmane.
Guru Padambu Janmane.
Savilasa Mahamoha.
Savilasa Mahamoha.
Graha Grasaika Karmane.
Graha Grasaika Karmane.
So let's do some new verses today. Let's kind of do number 55 through 58. We may not get to it, but let's at least enunciate it. So number 55. Dhyatra dhyane parityajya. Dhyatra dhyane parityajya. Kramadhyeyaika gocharam. Kramadhyeyaika gocharam. Nivata deepavat chittam. Nivata deepavat chittam. Samadhirabhidhiyate.
Samadhirabhidhiyate.
vrittayastu tadami tadani ajnata apyatmagocharaha smaranat anumiyante vyuttitasya samuthitat vrittinam anuvrittistu prayatnat pratamadapi adrishta asakritbhyasa samskara sachivat bhavet yatha deepo nivatastha ityadibhi anekadha Bhagavan nimamevartham Arjunaya nyarupayat So as I mentioned to you, oops, let me turn this on. So as we study verses 55 onwards, towards almost the end of the whole chapter, the course, what is now being described is the process by which the new identity that we are seeking becomes a reality for us. So this is what would be often called, one who is a realized soul. When you say he's a realized soul, what does it really mean? Is what we have to say. So Swami Dayanandji also used to be very leery of using terms like realized souls and so on, because when you think about such often used phrases like realized soul, you kind of abdicate your thinking about it. You say, this is a realized soul, I cannot be, is some kind of a very difficult to reach and so on. And so that is the reason why terms like realized souls, etc., should be redefined in that term. So what it really means is, in our discussion, as we know, the last class that we had, if you recall, that the whole process of Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam has 3 steps to it, which is that the old identity is taught to be given up, which is called Shravanam. And then some work has to be done to shed all the vestiges of the old identity. This is what's called samskaras. And then the new identity is, you're made very comfortable with it. So when you are comfortable with the new identity, then you have now arrived. So when that happens, then you should be called the so-called realized soul. This is what happens. And so here, as we saw, that what Vedanta teaches us is that, believe it or not, you are making a big mistake. You are not the family of, you are not a human being really. You're not a human being. We say, what? We are a human being. No. That is something that you have convinced yourself because of your upbringing and your birth and so on. Very much like, I think the example given, if you recall, is that of a lion cub who is brought up by lambs and doesn't know any better. He behaves like everybody else does and doesn't realize that he is somebody totally different. I think he's an amazingly different person. He doesn't realize it. So very similarly to that also, when we are born in a family of human beings, here's the thing. We are born in a family of human beings. And then we behave like human beings. We are supported by the concept of human beings. Our experiences are consistent with being a human being. We don't know any better. This is what I am. So here the Shastra comes, wait a second, there is a very interesting thing going on. You are a different breed. You're a different breed. Such a different breed that even Devatas cannot reach it. Even Devatas cannot reach it. Do you understand how big you are? And we say, no, we don't understand that. Tell us that. So he says, okay, have you just take out your paper and pencil, let me start from the beginning. So this is exactly what the parents of some tigers will show them. He says, you're just making a big mistake. Look at your paws. Are they the same as this lamb's paws? So that much you say, no, I don't. It's not there. Then roar like a tiger. Then he says, oh, he says, no, full-throated. So there's a lot of teaching there, one step at a time. And then you say, well, you're right, I don't look like a lamb, but I may be a different lamb, a bigger lamb. He says, no, you are not a bigger lamb, you are a completely different breed altogether. So similarly here, Vedanta also says, goodness, you have no idea what you are. Do you know that you are free of time? That you were never born? He said, what, really? Never born, free of time? It looks very strange. How can anything be free of time? You don't see anybody who's free of time. That's exactly right. It's you. You've never seen anyone. You cannot see yourself, but you are. And so here, what we should be very clear about it is that we often talk about the identity between the Jiva and Ishvara, Jiveshvara Aikyam. These are just theoretical words and so on and so forth. Really what it means is that the Jivatma must understand it is fundamentally Paramatma. In fact, Jivatma is not there. It is just an imposition on Paramatma. There is only Paramatma. Really, there is only Paramatma. That's all there it is. And we have our own concept that we have imposed on top of that. So it's not, this is the thing, it's not like Jivatma and Paramatma are two entities that they have to join together to become one. It's not like that. All it is that our identity as a Jivatma is a false identity. Here's Swami Vidyaranya in the beginning of the 6th chapter. He says, such beauty is amazing. I tell you, it's Ananda. I sit in the morning to read. I read the 6th chapter 2 times. And then finally I had to pull myself up to read the 7th chapter, which I read twice. Both of them are very long chapters. They're about 300 verses each. 285, 295, something like that. Huge, huge. Yeah, this is the second one. This is Pratama Bhaga, this is the second one. So I did the seventh chapter twice. Then I said, I need to just review, so it's in my mind what the sixth chapter was, because that was like 5-6 months ago. So I started sixth chapter again about a week ago. And I said, this time I'm revising, and I am just going much more quickly this time. No. I read 3 or 4 verses and I just go into meditation, just thinking about it. My God, incredible insight. And the more you read, the more you are prepared to understand the language. And I'm not moving forward at all. My sixth chapter again, third time, I'm going back just this morning, for example. I thought, I have much little time these days because of Aim for Seva and so on, so I don't have a lot of time, but I tried to read for at least an hour and a half. No way, I didn't have enough time at 45 minutes. 45 minutes, I simply revised in my mind what I had read in the last 3-4 days. That's it. Not moving any further. Such beauty, such depth, incredible. So in reading that, just to give you a sort of a summary of what they were talking about. So Swami Vidyaranyanaji says that in about, I think, verse number 8 or 9 of the 6th chapter, that essentially we have 3 different aspects to our understanding. And the 3 aspects are the world around us, the concept of Paramatma, Ishvara, the very creator, the very content of it, and my own concept of who I am. As a jiva, what's my name, what's my history, what's my future, how do I behave, problems, this, that, or the other, health problems, me. These are the 3 things. And so in the beginning of the teaching, the avidya is that all 3 of them are real. In fact, Paramatma in the beginning is not real. That is only taught about much later on. But after some teaching and so on and so forth, it is said that, you begin to realize that there must be some order behind all this. Who's in charge of rebirth and karma phala and all that. So you say, that person is there. Brahma is there, Ishvara is there. So that becomes a reality. World is already a reality and you are already a reality. This is avidya. And the vidya consists of negating the reality of the world and yourself as a jiva. So this is what is called badha. So badha means, the word, this is an important thing that you should clearly understand as the distinction between Vedantins and non-Vedantins. So badha does not mean absence. Like in deep sleep also has a complete absence. So the Jivan Mukti is not there like that. It's not necessary. What it means is that it's not necessary for the world to disappear before you have Jivan Mukti. But you might as well negate it through proper understanding. Just like you find that the wave, in fact, is not a separate entity. In fact, it is nothing, just an expression of water alone. So to make the wave or an ornament of a gold or something as a separate entity is a false thing. It is a dependence. The astitvam, the reality of it is dependent. It is not an independent thing. So when that is made very clear, so what happens is 2 things are negated. Jagat is negated as something that you experience, and the jiva who's the experience is also negated. Much more difficult to do, but ultimately that's what needs to be done. So both the jagat and jiva are negated. Ishvara, the Brahma, the the creator and so on doesn't need to be negated. That alone remains as the reality. And so what I was saying earlier was that really speaking, the aikyam is not joining together of two equal things, but really separating it's a different order of reality. This is what has to be understood. So this is the new reality which says that, my God, you don't understand. You are not the family of jivas and so on. This is what waking up from the dream really means. Your family is Ishvara. It's not a family, it's just one person. But if you want to create, it's good. You can say that as a jiva, I belong as a family of Ishvara. In fact, this is what is called the Mahima of Paramatma will be visible to you even as you are now. As you are. And so it means that, so it doesn't mean that you have to die to understand. In fact, you cannot die to understand. You can only be alive to understand that you are ajaha, you are not born. That you are not a karta, you are not a bhokta. You are in fact independent. And so that is the mahima of Ishvara that the jiva has to appreciate. And so when you do that, you really transition into the family of Ishvara. So this is the new identity that we saw. And so this identity has 3 steps to it. So one is Shravanam. And so just like the example we showed, that some tiger family person has to say, what the heck are you doing? You're living like a lamb? You must be crazy. I'm not crazy. And these all lambs are all looking at them and says, he's one of us. And so then he says, okay, I'll show you step by step. And then there comes a process of absorption to really look at that the steps being taught are really true. And so this, I think, happened, this example is from, I can't believe it, I can't remember if it's the 7th chapter or the 6th chapter. But anyway, it's a very detailed, step-by-step comparison between the story and the application. Yeah, we will go through that sometime. So I told you about that. So the tiger would say, okay, eat this meat. And then the cub will say, no, I cannot eat this. I don't like it. He says, eat it. Don't eat this stupid grass. And so there's somewhat of a force involved. And so all of that has to be done by the Shastra in some way. He said, do it. And really what is necessary, the most important thing is to do vichara. Most important. And so the vichara means you have to really think about it. So this cub also has to think. Because it's a self-conclusion. So the addressing, this is exactly what the example of the Bhagavad Gita is. That Arjuna was a great friend of Krishna. And so if he was just just put his hand on the head and say, okay, you are now free. He doesn't do it. Because it's a question of self-identity. Arjuna thinks that I'm doing something wrong. I'll be a papi if I kill my... And so he's conflicted in terms of dharma, adharma. So there is some... So this is why the dialogue has to take place. All because you got to do vichara. So Krishna's message in the Bhagavad Gita also is that Arjuna, think about it. Don't you understand? Don't you see? This is what what you need to think about? And Arjuna says, well, I'm trying, but I have doubts. Sometimes you say karma is better, sometimes you say jnanam is better, all these kinds of things, all pointing out to the necessity of vichara. And here also in our study, it is said that really just merely studying books and coming to classes and so on, they all help, but that's not what's going to do it. You have to make up your own mind based on all of the data that has been given to you, and then make a conclusion that, my God, this is right. This is right. Not an easy thing to do. You have to really equip yourself to do that. And so this is mananam. That part is all mananam. Then comes nididhyasana. Now, nididhyasana means that the old samskaras are still, they just put spokes in the wheel and so on. And here the example of a suddenly rich man is a very good one, I think. Absolutely a great example, where you have somebody who is really living hand and mouth, and justifiably so, within the leaving of the means. I've got only $100, $200, I've got to make it work, and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden he's given $10, $20, $100 million. And he doesn't believe it at first, then he has to claim it. And now he's living in a bank, he's got money in the bank, and he's living in a nice apartment in San Francisco, in this tall building. He's been given that. His thinking is still the old one. Because if somebody asks him for $10, he'll say, no, I don't have the $10. So he's not owned, he's an owner of 100 million, but he doesn't really own it yet. That thinking has to change. So similarly here also, the old habits will come back. And you have to slowly become very comfortable in it. Another example, very beautiful example that Acharyas give is that when a person is given Diksha and made a new Swami's name, for a while you still respond to the old name. The new name hasn't really sunk in yet. And for a while then both of them come about. Then you become comfortable. And as Swami Maheshanji was saying that after a while, if somebody calls you by your old name and he says, oh yeah, interesting, I used to be called that. So you become uncomfortable with that. The comfortable is with the new name. So it's really a question of a new identity. This is the crux of the whole thing. In and through all these talks and books to read and so on and so forth, you have to see the potential of this new identity. Jivatma is not Jivatma, it is really Paramatma. It is just an imposition on it. As we have talked about it, there is light everywhere, and we have just closed all the doors to it and make it into a dark room. And if we start opening it one at a time, then it accelerates and says, I don't have to generate the light, it's already there. So this is the process. Now, this part of the text is focusing on the following. This is an important thing. And it's very possible, which I mentioned, that the very detailed explanations of Tivatiranya from this point on maybe not be that useful to us. This is the one thing I found in this one chapter. But he's of course given us all the details. But these are the various steps that you need to go to really become very comfortable with the new identity. And it's pretty detailed. And something that we have to understand, but we probably are not ready for it. I am not ready for it. And so I felt that this is not something that we can understand or to grasp immediately. Nevertheless, I'll give you the gist of it from now on. So here, the gist of it is as follows. It says it is our own experience, and this is all part of our learning. You should have complete confidence that this is what happens. And quite frankly, in fact, when I with Swami Dayanandji, I never reached the point of really discussing all of this, because we were still at the point of basically Shravanam. What are the various Vedantic books are saying? And we stayed with him for 2.5 years, not enough. So I don't fault him for not teaching me all of this stuff, because I was not ready. But then as I slowly became more conversant with and then I discovered Swami Maheshananji now, and very frankly, his publications in Hindi and the way all his lectures have been captured go into a lot of depth. If you look at the publications of Swami Dayanandji and so on, they're really more meant for the students who are still getting accustomed to it and so on. But here I find Swami Maheshananji's booklets, books, etc. are really meant for sannyasis who are really want to go to all the way. I find it much more, and is not comparing one or the other, just the way the publications are, just the way he's talking, who is he talking to, and who is actually translating this. The quality of Hindi publications in Maheshananji is superb. I've not found a single mistake anywhere, no typos. Just wonderful work. It just reaches out to me. So here, one important thing is being talked about, which is, even after you have been studying and you start to grasp the fundamentals, oh my goodness, this is the Atma, I am the Sakshi, I am separate from the Ahankara, and all the things we have been doing in different classes, like you have Pratibhimbavada, you have, and then you have the enclosures and so on. All those kinds of things we have to really understand very fully. Despite that, so another thing, just to interrupt it, so if out of the three things, Satchid Ananda, Sat and Chit are relatively easier to understand. You can call it the experience, you can call it anything, but the appreciation of pure Ananda takes a while. Not that easy. Not that easy. And the question is, what do you mean by not that easy? What needs to, okay, fine, I understand it's not that easy, but what is it? And how do I get complete Ananda? So here, one thing that you will see from your experience, interesting, another aspect of this part is that Adi Shankara has actually said, I may be repeating it, I may have said that all the time, but it's a very interesting thing. So, Adi Shankara says that the attainment of Ananda is not like the attainment of going somewhere. Like supposing you have to go to some point that you want to go to. You don't have the success of reaching until you reach. Yeah, you can say that I'm halfway through, but really you have not reached yet. There is no experience of reaching until you get to the point that you wanted to go to. So this is one thing. You contrast that with hunger. This is Adi Shankara's example. He said hunger, supposing you are extremely hungry, extremely hungry. Here, Swami Dayananda had this is what he calls Saptavada Nyaya. I know you may have heard it. So there are, in Vedanta, various Nyayas are used. Nyayas means logical steps to make you understand. It's called Nyaya. And there are books written on it. And there's beautiful examples of different kind of nyaya. So this is called Saptavada Nyaya. The Saptavada Nyaya means there is a guy who went to a restaurant in South India and said, I am very hungry. What do you have for me? So they said, sir, we have dosas, we have uttapam, we have vadas that, can be very quickly given and so on. So he said, okay. Will that quench my hunger? Yeah, I think it should. Okay. So he says, okay, bring me a vada. So he ate one vada. And then he's still hungry. So he asked for another one, another one, another one. He ate the seventh one. By this time the guy says, sir, do you want any more? He says, no, I think now my hunger is gone. He says, okay, I'm very happy, wonderful. So, how much are the vadas? He says, 1 rupee each, sir. So he gave him 1 rupee. He says, sir, this is 7 rupees. He says, no, only the 7th one quench my hunger. The other ones didn't do it. So I'm not going to pay you for you. You told me that it will satisfy my hunger. So Adi Shankara says that if you're very hungry, then you start eating 1 vada. Your 1/7 of your hunger is gone. You have the saying, oh my goodness, this is so wonderful at least, but I'm still hungry. Eat some more. Now 2/7 of your hunger is gone. Like that. So it's a gradual process, as opposed to going somewhere where it is 0, 0, 0, all of a sudden it is 100%. You see? So, the learning of Vedanta is like is like eating a vada. It is not like reaching someplace. How? So what happens is that if you start to understand the presence of Ishvara, and you abdicate your isolation by 1/10, your ananda will increase 1/10%. It's not as though you have to reach a Jivan Mukti and then you will be completely ananda. It's not like that. You simply slowly but turn to Ishvara. The appreciation of Paramatma, that you are the Paramatma, is a gradual process. Your confidence will also increase, your enthusiasm will also increase, and your results will show you that things are not bothering me as much. I'm not as dependent on things on outside. That means you're going in the right direction. This is what it is. Then so what I wanted to say was that one thing that the attainment of ananda can be looked upon. I'm oversimplifying this, but can be attained, can be segmented into 2 parts. One is the absence of dukkha. Absence of dukkha also is ananda of some kind. Because supposing you have an extreme stomachache and you are just saying, oh my goodness, what's happening to me? And you take some medicines. Now you're back to where you used to be before. You haven't really reached any heights or anything like this. But just the absence of the pain itself is ananda. This is ananda. And so what will happen is that as we study, your insulation towards problems will increase. You will experience this, that you'll become more independent, more self-sufficient, more happy within yourself, and you'll be insulated from shocks. So this is the first part of the Ananda. But this is not the positive Ananda which has been promised to us, because what we are trying to do is something extraordinarily difficult. It requires a lot of sacrifice. You have to almost turn away from the world. And not easy to do. You need courage. All the dhirya, dhairyam, dhira, that word is used by the acharyas, by the shastras, saying that this is not the work for people who want to escape, as the same lesson for Arjuna. Arjuna wanted to escape. He says, no, it's not going to work. In fact, you need to be even braver than what you were when you were fighting. People have a wrong idea about students of Vedanta, that we are shirking our responsibility. Swami Maheshanji talks about it a lot. He says the whole society just looks down upon you, your own family, your spouses. What are you doing? You should just be helping us doing something. You're just wasting your time. I don't know what you're doing. So there is skepticism from all sides. Skepticism from your own mind. Oh, I've been doing this for so long. Is this the right thing? Maybe I should quit it and do something else. A lot of skepticism. It requires a lot of bravery to just keep going and say, I don't know, this is what it is. You just hang on to Ishvara in the storm of life. And then one thing I can almost tell you is that any time I'm even slightly discouraged about the progress, or I'm not discouraged overall, but supposing I say, I don't know, something happens to give me new insights. I can see and the Swami Maheshanji talks about it, and I can see it. Wouldn't let me go. My enthusiasm, comes right back. And it comes from outside. Even I don't have to do anything. Amazing. So the second part of Ananda, the very positive Ananda, is another matter altogether. That requires, so that is from Nididhyasana. A lot of that is the practice of your new identity, the practice of the new identity. So be aware of this. There are two schools of thought within Vedanta, and both of them are valid to a certain extent. And I had a very interesting discussion about this with Swami Viditapananda ji, not this time, but last time when he was here a year ago. And we were driving someplace, and we were discussing this point. So there are two schools of thought. So one thought is that the reason you do not have positive Ananda, the absence of negative Ananda is clear. That you will see from your own life. That is not a big thing. It's a big thing, but you can attain that. But to go into a positive Ananda where you are really in heaven all the time, oblivious of what is happening, and really enjoying, and so this is what the Jivan Mukta says will happen to you. It will happen to you. That attainment of Ananda has two ways to go about it. There is a difference of opinion in some ways, and in some ways both are right. So the two are, so we can write it down even. Sometimes it is called bliss, but really I stay away from that word. Just pure joy, unadulterated joy. So one of them, one viewpoint is called Antakarana Shuddhi. Antakarana Shuddhi means to get rid of all impurities from your mind. And what are the type of impurities? We all know this. So this means any kind of subjectivity, any kind of partiality. So typically you will find that a person has some love for family and so on, but not the in-laws side. So this is an impurity. It means you have some ways to go. You would display a lot. I observe this amongst people a lot. They have extreme love for their side of the family and almost like a dislike towards the other. Bare toleration. And so this is the kind of impurity and those kinds of things. All those kind of things. Then the second kind of thing, which is totally different, is called abhyasa. Abhyasa means repeated following, repeatedly following meditation. And good habits. So, good habits meaning obviously meditation is the best habit there is, but all these supporting things for meditation, calmness, sattvic behavior, sattvic food, and repetition, not just once in a while, but just make that into a routine of your life, so much so that it becomes effortless. So this is what is called abhyasa. So the difference between these two are, in that sense, that the antakarana shuddhi means that you may not do much abhyasa, but you work towards removing the impurities of your mind. And the other extreme is that you tolerate the impurities of your mind because you are incapable of removing them completely, but you supplement it, or not even supplement it, you actually resort to a lot of forced meditation. The truth is that a combination of those two is required. But there are schools of thought that really accentuate this. And there are schools of thought that do this. So here in this, now to go back to the text, Okay, the text here, for this text, for this point, it's not to say that, and I am not a scholar enough to find out which, what the overall thinking of Swami Vidyaranya is and so on. And perhaps Swami Viditatmananda ji might be able to educate us sometime. We'll probably ask him on that. But at this point in time, the emphasis of this text is on number 2. He's talked about Mantakarna Shuddhis, not as though he doesn't believe in it or anything like that. I'm just talking about the emphasis of emphasis of for what? The objective is the attainment of positive ananda. Now here it should be seen that the abhyasa that we talk about is not the same as the yogic abhyasa. Not what yoga says, not what Patanjali says. We differ from it completely. This should be well understood. So not to say that Patanjali yogas are useless. They're not. They're not. But that alone will deliver the goods is what we disagree with. So the abhyasa that we talk about, which has all of the, really speaking, all of these 8 steps of yama, niyama, asana, and everything are still useful, and we employ that. But you know what? That comes after jnanam. It is not for jnanam. So the Patanjali yoga steps are useful as a sadhana for a sadhaka. But if you, and this can be, this is not the time to argue against it, because you will say, because I'm just telling you something, that don't accept it. So all we can say is that there is a lot of logic behind it. This is what is called Akhanda Akara Vritti. Akhanda Akara Vritti means this is what delivers the goods. Now we'll talk about that in more detail some other time. But Akhanda Akara Vritti means that to reach the highest, you should see clearly that what you are experiencing is mithya. Very clearly. This requires a lot of background. We'll go into this, and this is a very important topic as we go into Mananam, especially in the more advanced topics, in advanced texts like Mandukya. We probably won't go into as much depth in Bhagavad Gita, but in these two, and this is just a small segment for about 6-7 months, so I can only mention it. But so the Patanjali yoga steps all the way up to dharana, dhyanam, and then samadhi are steps to substantiate the jnanam that has already been clarified. And so here, one point, very interesting point is that chitta niruddham, which is the final point of Patanjali yoga, means that the mind has been neutralized completely. So our acharyas argue that it is kind of like going to a deep sleep, where your mind has been completely neutralized. But what good has that done to you? Please, pray tell us, they say. You come back again as I won't use Swamiji's strong words, but he was very fond of saying, come back as an idiot. You're still the same jiva, same problems, this, that, or the other. It hasn't really done anything. So the yogic samadhi, in our view, is like a deep sleep. So you have about half an hour of wonderful samadhi. And, it's one of the students, this is the interesting thing, one of the students on this HCI course, they were all introducing themselves. And he was saying, and I've heard this so many times. He said, I am a student of Vipassana. And so my goal is that whenever I come back from Vipassana, that state of mind I want to spread to the others. Okay, so now this is a state of mind, and he's come out of Vipassana. And it's even worse. Even worse than before, because you were enjoying it so much and you're back again. Maheshanji gives this example. He says, and this is very typical, you go to India in the hot weather, and what you find is that people are, some of the poorer people of the country, most of them, cannot afford an air conditioner. So at the very most you have a fan. And you suffer through 110 degrees of temperature, and you're inside, and the ladies are cooking, and so on and so forth. And then they come out, it's a little bit warmer, and so on and so forth. So there's some relative discomfort between shade and sunlight. Not that much of a difference. But suppose you get an air conditioner at a nice 60 degrees temperature Fahrenheit, and then the power fails. You know what will happen? This other lady who was just cooking, she won't feel any difference. You are going to be beset with, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? When is the power coming back? Has anybody called these people? What is going on? So this is exactly like when you come out from Vipassana, you feel, what is this? I want to go back to Vipassana. This is not moksha, guys. This is not moksha. Moksha is you don't care what is happening, you are free. And yes, there we do agree that in order to clarify the whole thing, you may need to have to have positive ananda. Yes, you do have to do some abhyasa. But anyway, this is the background on it, and so on and so forth. But now let us look at some specific texts to see. So as I mentioned to you, I'm just going to go through it rather quickly and not really spend a lot of time on this, because this is very technical and I'm not sure that it really will help us. Anyway, number 55 says, so this is the process of nididhyasanam, the various steps of nididhyasanam. So he says, dhyatra dhyane parityajya kramadhi parityajya dheya eka gocharam nivata deepa vachittam samadhi abhidhiyate. So he says the way this will happen is that when you start to do contemplation or meditation, you will have three things. So one is, I am meditating. Then you are aware of the fact that I am meditating. And the other one is that meditation is going on. And then the third thing is that what am I meditating on? Right? So, so the three things are dhyata, dhyatra. Dhyatra means the meditator, contemplator. Dhyanam, which is the very process of meditation. So this is the dual case, dhyatra dhyane. So it's a dual case. And then the third thing is dhyeya. What am I meditating upon? What is it that I want to get to? It's called dhyeya. So that the region or the place where you want to reach in that manner. And so here what will happen is that the dhyeya is the Paramatma. In the fact that you begin to appreciate. So in this meditation, for example, what you will see is, like for example, what I do is I focus in on one aspect of Paramatma. Just stay in one aspect of Paramatma that I don't appreciate. So for example, the fact that I am unborn. Ajaha, aham ajaha. So this is a fact, you just take that as the goal of this meditation. Just this appreciation of this one thing. And so there, what you find is, in the beginning you say, I am meditating on this. And this is the meditation. And this is what I want to reach. Then, when you start to get better at this, what will happen is that the mind will get so absorbed in the appreciation of dhyeya, of this one fact, that the dhyata and the dhyanam recede in the background. And so here Swami Maheswaranji makes a very interesting point. He says, no, it's not as though that the dhyata and the dhyanam are missing, but the attention becomes absorbed in dhyeya. And he gave this a very interesting example. He says, supposing you are you're looking at some person, and you find that the person is wearing some kind of a dress or a uniform or something. So your attention, supposing you are, I don't know, it just came to me that supposing there is a guy with the, he's well decorated in the military, and they have all these medals and, and so on and so forth, with a hat and so on. So supposing your own son or somebody comes to the home, your attention is now, let's say, wow, what a beautiful uniform you're wearing. And your attention is to the uniform, even though you're seeing the rest of the body and the sun and so on, but your mental attention is totally devoted towards the appreciation of the uniform. Just one example. So something like that. This is what it says, dhyatra dhyane parityajya kramad dheya ekagocharam nivata deepavat chittam samadhi abhidhiyate. So there that means that there is no wavering of your mind, and you're so absorbed with, so the wavering means that, I'm meditating and I'm not comfortable and I should do this. And so this is the wavering, like a flame that has some wind. Okay, it's not steady. But slowly, if you begin to steady your mind and focus in on, in this case, I am Ajam. And the Ajatva, the non-birthness of yourself will pull you in. And you get lost into the understanding of that. So this would be called Samadhi. But the thing is, here you are still awake. Your mind is awake. Your mind is necessary to be awake to appreciate the fact that you are never born. Actually, you are never born, but when you are in a deep sleep, do you ever appreciate it? Can you appreciate it? No, you cannot appreciate it. This is a fact that you cannot appreciate until teaching has gone through, some mananam has been done, then you can bring it to your own focus and say, my God. Because if that focus is not there, then this fact is not yet useful to you. That means that your new identity is not comfortable with you. You're still at the old, your mind is still has a kind of like a default with the old identity that I'm just a human being. This is what happens. So this is the process, these are the kind of things they are going to describe. So, difficult. Let me take another verse, and these are, I'm just picking out some concept here and there. It's not going through into a lot of details. So, for example, number 56. Okay, let's look at this, number 56. Vrittayastu tadavnim. Let me read this again. Tadanim ajñata api atmagocharaha smaranat anumiyante vyutthitasya samuthitat. Okay, difficult verse. But anyway, what he's saying is, so this is to be, I just want you to appreciate this one concept. Okay? This one concept. And I may be borrowing it from some of the other verses that are coming, but this is a good one to do. So what happens is, take an example of riding a bike where you are pedaling to gain speed. But if you watch it, what you will find is that it is not necessary to pedal all the time. You can rest the pedals, and even when you're resting the pedals, the bike does not stop. So even it is true that in order to make the bike go forward, you have to pedal. It's true. But if you have pedaled enough, then even non-pedaling will keep you somewhere. So the fact of the matter is that if you become, it goes back to the abhyasa. Go back to the abhyasa. Abhyasa means that it's not as though you're doing meditation all the time, like you're pedaling and so on and so forth. But so this is exactly what happens. You find these bicyclists, they pedal for a while, then they rest for a while. And the bike is still going on. When the bike slows down, then you pedal it again. So here, Swami, and I'm just picking out all the things, I'm not just doing it verse, you can appreciate that, because I want to give an overall feeling for it. So here's Swami Maheshanji gave a beautiful example. He said, supposing you are having some headaches now and once in a while. It happens in your life. Sometimes you get headaches more often than other times, and so on. And so then immediately you take some Anacin or something like this for headache. So now you have not had headache for a while, and you're traveling. You know what? It is useful to keep the Anacin just in case you need it. You're not having any headache at the moment, but just in case you come up, you don't want to spoil your trip and your other's trip, you pull it out of your pocket and then you're okay. So similarly here also, he says that in the beginning, you just do samadhi, and even later on, when you are not doing samadhi, you can it'll be like a non-pedaling. But supposing it slows down, then you have to pedal again. Okay? So this is what is called anuvritti. Vritti means pedaling. Anuvritti means resting from your samskaras. And at the moment what is happening is that the anuvritti that you have, so here's what will happen. I'll just close with this because we are running out of time. What will happen is that when you're not yet comfortable with the new identity, your old identity will bother you from time to time. I'm talking about the Mahatmas. We have not yet assumed the new identity. We are still struggling to understand that. But supposing you do understand it, yet for these, so really the process, all these swamis have to go through this. They have to, this is exactly what they have to go through. That they are just starting to get more comfortable, but not there yet, because you still get the old anuvritti from the old identity. But slowly, the anuvritti from the new identity will become more prevalent. But once in a while you will say, I am the karta, I am the bhokta, I am the body, and so on and so forth, especially when you have bodily problems. You have to deal with it. It comes like it's you. But then you have to sort of you take your Anacin out of the pocket, and you have to say, my goodness, what is happening to me? Why am I deluding myself? Haven't I learned enough? So you take that out and you use it. And so in a very skillful fashion. So this is the process that you have to go through. This is the attainment of the positive ananda. Anyway, so this is what this portion of the text is talking of, and we'll continue on that. But I thought that instead of just taking word for word and so on and so forth, giving you an overall sense of what Vidyaranya is trying to indicate, and also give you an overall sense of what needs to be done. You can evaluate yourself, where am I? It's a long ways to go. And also not to get discouraged, but to say there is a way out. You have to you have to put a lot of work in. And then at the end of that, because the attainment of freedom is amazing, and we all have to work towards it. Anyway, so I'll close with that. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityo Ma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Yeah.
Question or comment. You talked about the Antakarana Siddhi and
Yeah.
Abhyasa to achieve Ananda.
Correct.
So that looks like a time-dependent process, doesn't it? I mean, you have to
Yes.
do this and this to get there.
Yes,
But
yes.
we also know that the realization is not necessarily, it's not a time-dependent thing.
Yeah.
It's a non-local, you don't have to be a sannyasi to get realization. You may be
No.
getting realization when you're a 7-year-old too.
Quite right.
So I want to kind of contrast that and, this, the path is good, doing all this, but
Yeah.
that needs to be contrasted from what we call as bliss or realization, which is not necessarily time-dependent.
Well, it is not time dependent, but it depends on adhikaritvam. So fundamentally, it is the nature of Brahman, which is Ananda, is itself not time dependent. So we are already free. We are already independent of time. But when we will understand it, all depends on our adhikaritvam. And so some adhikaris might take a little longer time and some may instantly do it. So it all depends on where we are from our past karmas, our past studies and so on. So the nature of moksha is not time dependent. The understanding of moksha has some dependencies. Yeah. So it's not a contrast. It's not like one or the other. It's the same thing. That it's just that we are talking to adhikaris that are not yet understood that I am already free. But we are already free already. Yeah.
So, often the example of deep sleep is given
Hmm.
as the state of consciousness.
Yeah.
But in deep sleep, while all my problems are absent,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that there is any positive joy either.
Yeah, there is not a lot of positive joy. There is some. You wake up with a very nice, and often if you were to wake up, you see, one of the problems in the sleep is that the absolute deep sleep is a very small portion of the whole night. And so you are beset by dreams and so on and so forth. So oftentimes when you wake up, you may be beset by some of the anuvritti from the dream. Just like we are here, we have some anuvrittis of the waking world. But if you were to wake up from a true deep sleep, that does happen in the mornings at sometimes, then that feeling is very beautiful. You feel that, and if you just pause to enjoy that, because this is another thing that happens because we are anxious to go ahead with the problems, not problems, with the life itself, and instead of, we don't have the time, we feel guilty that why am I just sitting here doing nothing? All those are problems. But really, I think if you were to wake up as after deep sleep, then stay with it for a while if you can. If you don't have to go to office right away, and just think about it. I am nothing but consciousness. I am not a body. I don't have any mind comes and goes, but I am the very consciousness. And I'm free from all form. So that appreciation is a very beautiful appreciation. And that also is not as good a positive ananda as the Jivan Mukta will tell us. But it's slowly getting up there. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
use the terms negative ananda and positive ananda.
Mhm.
What does, can you?
No,
explain
negative
a bit
ananda
more?
means, no, I meant the absence of dukkha.
Okay, so
absence
negative
of-
ananda is just an absence
Of dukkha, yeah. Just 1 second, sorry.
So going back to this question, when we wake up in the morning from a deep
Mhm.
sleep, your eyes just naturally open, you're not jolted by anything,
Mhm.
you just become, then that is the time when the first thought that comes to my mind, or consciously or by sheer practice, I don't
Mhm.
know, is aham brahmasmi.
Mhm.
And that to just remain in that moment, in that thought, before the day starts, before everything else clouds your mind, it's where it's completely blank, where
Mhm.
you don't have an agenda for the day,
Mhm.
and you just remain that even for a few moments, a minute or two or whatever,
Mhm.
is reward enough for a good
Yeah.
night's sleep.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree, totally agree, yeah. And so I think what will happen is that over time, you will create more and more such opportunities, not just when you're waking
Right.
up,
I've been trying to keep
you
that
know,
throughout the
keep,
day.
and
yeah.
so on, yeah, that's, and then you need to, so this is the whole practice of abhyasa, where, so very instantly enough, when I do meditation in the morning, which I try to do every morning, when I sit down, I don't have that appreciation yet. You know, I'm not to the point where that appreciation that I have some freedom is with me all the time. But I can create it. I can consciously create it. And I find doing some japam with our Dakshinamurti Stotram and so I do that for about 5-7 minutes. And it is just amazing that it just slowly gets me to that point. And so you can create it. And even, sorry, Shilpa, you had a question.
I just wanted to ask, so the abhyasa will get me to conviction. Is that it?
Well, the conviction has to come before that. The conviction of Atma, Anatma, Viveka, who am I, that has to come from the study. So that's Shravanam Mananam. Nididhyasana means something that is already clear to you, but not yet useful in your life. So that's what Nididhyasana is. So the example given is that, for example, supposing you go to a country and you don't know which side of the road they drive. Okay? So you may make a mistake. But then you find out, hey, are they driving on, what are the rules? Then somebody says, these are the rules. You know, that for example, you have to stop before making a right turn. So that you are not familiar with, in some states you can make a right turn without stopping. I don't know, I'm just picking out an example. So then you don't know the rules and you may get into some problems. Then you find out that is the rule. But your old habits are still there. So the conviction in that case would be definitely knowing the rules of the new country that you're driving in. Exactly knowing exactly what has to be done. That is a conviction. But you can still make a mistake because your mind is still used to the old one. So here we are not talking, Nididhyasana is not conviction, but it is in fact putting into practice what you were convinced of before. Yeah, something like that. Sorry.
So when you said then when Jnani gets the knowledge, right,
Mhm.
and he loses the identity, the new
Mhm.
identity once it feels comfortable.
Mhm.
Does it really happen since it's completely gone your old identity?
No, not
by the
immediately,
way?
not immediately. But when it does happen, then this is what is called Badhita Anuvritti. Badhita Anuvritti is, so the example, I mean, we have used that so many times that it gets trite, that if a wave is told that you are the whole water, you are the whole ocean, but you still are a wave until you die as a wave. Until then, your identity is with water, but you fulfill your requirements of this life.
That's what
So-
we had a question in our study.
Mhm.
So that's why I brought it up, this particularly, like, you know.
So this is what is called Badita Nuvritti, as good as gone.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Alvin, you had a question?
Between Nidra and Samadhi,
Mhm.
I think the difference, can it be like Nidra is more tamas pradhan and Dhyan is the sattvic pradhan?
Well,
Can we
maybe,
say that?
yeah, in that sense, yes. But the thing is, Nidra is, in that sense, Ishvara Srishti. Ishvara Srishti meaning that everybody sleeps, even a criminal sleeps. So it's a great grace of the Lord. Whereas meditation, Samadhi is Jiva Srishti. Jiva Srishti meaning that you work towards it. Not everybody can have Samadhi. And you can perhaps have a little deeper sense of joy, and so on and so forth. So there are differences between them. So yeah, one is tamasic and one is sattvic in that sense. But eventually what it means is that is also a state which will go. It is not a nature, it is not a swarupa. So this is exactly like in the Mandukya Upanishad, where you have a state. That means you have a situation, you have an experience of it, but it's not the swarupa.
Yeah, so talking about that state, I mean in Nidra, you don't know, maybe Turiya is realized after you're awake, but in Samadhi it's there, and maybe you know. Is that right? Or?
No, in
No.
Samadhi what is happening is that, I don't practice yoga, so this is what acharyas tell us. So in Samadhi also what happens is, this is an important thing to see in Vedanta, that you've actually, all the dhyanam, the dhyata and dhyeya, etc. are all gone. You're just one. Okay, that much we agree with. Okay, except for the basic ajnanam, that I am of the nature of a sakshi, that ajnanam is still there. Okay, so here's the difference. Ajnana means, what the question is, so what does it mean that ajnanam is still there? What it means is that when you come out of it, the world is still real, and you as a jiva is still real. That means the ajnanam has not been gone yet. Whereas for a jnani, this is what is called sahaja samadhi. So sahaja samadhi means that whether or not the world is there or not, it cannot be. Even if it appears to be, it is badita samadhi, just like we were discussing that. So that is the very key difference between them. Yeah. We can discuss.
That I agree, because I have a good example for that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. We will see you next week.
Thank you.
Kalpana,
We stop this.
so Sujata had sent an